Rose here again with Profits Unlimited. Got another segment on how to help your company be more successful and more profitable. As always, just remember, if you need to get in touch with me, you can reach me direct on my email at Wayne Volz, V as in Victor, OLZ, and the number 01. So it's Wayne Volz 01 at gmail.com. Or you can reach us on our Profits Unlimited Facebook page. Feel free to always touch base with us if you got any questions on anything that we cover during our videos here, and we'll certainly get back with you on that. I'd like to talk today a little bit about something that I think sometimes is a little bit limiting for most of us. And you know, we talk about pride and professionalism here a little bit today, and sometimes we think we just got an abundance amount of pride and professionalism. When we really take a look at it, we may make a self-evaluation and maybe come up with a different result than what we thought initially. So I'd like to first talk a little bit about pride and how I think we got to just ask ourselves, are you proud of your profession? Are you proud of your profession? Or do you sometimes apologize for it? And I know initially you're out there thinking, no, I've never apologized for being a lawn guy. Well, let me tell you how I used to apologize for being a lawn guy. This goes back 20 plus years. And I thought I was very proudful and had a lot of pride in what I was doing. But you know, a lot of times in our industry, people don't think we first of all, they don't think we got real jobs, right? You guys ever hear that? Hey, when are you going to get a real job, you know? And we certainly do have real jobs, number one. But the way things happened to me back in the day, and I'm telling my age a little bit, so we'll backtrack a little bit here and have a little fun for a minute with this, is, you know, my wife had the quote-unquote real job. We're coming up on a Christmas party, and we're all sitting around this table, and everybody's telling everybody what the other one does. I don't know if you've been in that environment, but you know, this guy's a bank manager, and this lady here, she's running this company, and this one's running this company. And all of a sudden it's my turn to say, I'm the lawn guy. And I'm like, man, I'm going to go to the bathroom before it's my turn. I was embarrassed to be sitting around that table with that group of people. And I know that may seem, you might be going through your mind saying, no, that would never happen to me. That's never going to happen to me. But I also know that the reality of it is there's a whole lot of people out there that have had that happen to them. And why do we let that happen to us? And that's what I'd like to touch base on a little bit today, is why we get into that mindset sometime. Because, you know, pride certainly is simply a mindset for every one of us. It's the way you feel about what you do and how you do it and why you do it. You know, I had a lot of pride when I was sitting in a room or, you know, at an equipment dealer or whatever it may be, and we're sitting there and we're talking about our companies. I was very prideful then. But when I got outside of that comfort zone with other people is where sometimes I had a second guess at, or self-check on that pride. And so just keep in mind that pride is necessary for your success and profitability. And your company size doesn't matter. You know, people say, well, it's easy to, you know, Wayne, for you to talk about pride now. Look how large your company is. Company size has no matter. The smaller your company is, the easier it is for that whole pride chain to work for you. And why is that? Because you're the only operator. You're out there, you have that interaction constantly with all your customers. You got the day-to-day with everything about your company you're in control of. So, you know, the smaller your company is, the easier it technically is to have a lot of pride in what you're doing. Now, as your company grows and you add 1 truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks, 20 trucks, however large your company wants to get, or, you know, that you set that up to go and how you scale your own company, the challenging part then becomes, how do you instill that same pride that you have for your company and your business and your customers into those employees that you have? And we'll certainly talk about that in a different video down the road here about that, on how that has to translate downhill to everybody within your company, or uphill, however you want to look at it, as your company begins to grow. But you've got to have total confidence in yourself. And I think that's where a lot of times we fail as an industry, as a business owner, and certainly sometimes even as a person. we don't have that confidence level that allows us to have the pride that we need to have in what we're doing. Because, something that I always think about, as I'm talking about pride, is every one of us, you guys watching this video and me, every one of us as business owners, we're doing something that a lot of people wish they had the guts to do. And what is that? What is that? Think about that a second while I get me a little drink of water here. What are all of us doing that a lot of people wish they had the guts to do? We're running our own company. We've taken the plunge. We've decided we're going to take that chance. So for that reason alone, you need to be prideful about what you do. And how do we gain that confidence? And I know there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, right? You always hate to be next to that guy that is very arrogant about things. So we got to be careful that we don't become arrogant with too much confidence and pride in what we do, but certainly have the confidence in what we do to know that what we do different and better than our competitor. And the way we gain that confidence is training and education, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But that's what you got to have. You got to be confident and know why you're different and better than your competitor. Because if you don't have that confidence, what happens? What happens if you don't have the confidence to know what makes you different and better than your competitor? Think about that for a second. Put your thinking cap on. I know you're thinking about it. You've probably come up with an answer, but I'm giving everybody a few seconds here to think about what happens if you don't have the confidence. If you're sitting there and you're going in to sit in a boardroom with ABC Company and you know that you're the third service that they've talked to, or you're going into Miss Smith's living room and sitting down and you're going to talk to them about installing a landscape or mowing their lawn or whatever it is, you got to have the confidence to know what you do different and better than the next guy, or you're going to have a low self-esteem. And if you got a low self-esteem, what have you done for your competitor? What have you done at that point for your competitor when your mindset is, oh gosh, I think this guy's bidding on it. And they've been in business, 20 years and they're running 5 trucks and, here I am, I've only been in business a few years and blah, blah, this. You're giving yourself all these excuses. What have you already done that you don't even realize? What you've done is lost the battle before it ever started. Your competitor has already won before you ever sat down and talked to your customer. So get the confidence, know what you do different and better within your company. As a small company, that confidence can come through, hey, you know what? I'm here every week. I'm the person that does the work. I'm the person you're going to talk to on the telephone. I'm here for you. You don't have 5 different people you're going to have to try to get in touch with to find out, hey, when can we do this? Or if something happens, how are we going to fix this? That's how you gain the confidence. So that's why it doesn't have to do with company size. You've got a lot of advantages as a small company that a larger company doesn't have. As a larger company looking at this video and thinking, okay, what's my advantage over a smaller company? Well, your advantage as a larger company over a smaller company is I'm not going to have to call, or you're not going to have to call any of your customers and tell them my truck's broke down or my lawnmower's broke down. I'm not going to be able to come today because, I'm sick. So take whatever advantage you have over your competitor as a large company or a small company, wherever you fit. And as you grow, those advantages and disadvantages are going to start weighing differently and how you're going to present that to your customer. But you've got to have the confidence so you don't have a low self-esteem. And if you don't have that confidence, I strongly suggest that you take a look at it and make a realistic self-evaluation and correct it. Because if you don't correct it, you're going to restrict the success and profitability of your company as you try to move forward thinking they're bigger than me, they're better than me, they do this better than me, I don't understand this, I don't know this. Whenever you give yourself the I don't understand and I don't know excuse, it simply means you haven't done enough homework on your own to fill those blanks in to where you don't say I don't know. And that's when you become a good salesperson and you gain that confidence that you need. Next thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is professionalism. And what's your definition of professionalism? Let me ask you that. What do you think professionalism is? I hear all the time from guys, talking in seminars and talking to them on the telephone and whatnot. When we're talking about professionalism, they'll say, well, we keep our trucks clean, we wear uniforms. That certainly is part of being a professional, without a doubt. That image is very important. What is your image? Do you know what your image is? It's easy for you to sit back and think about what you think it is, but have you asked any of your customers, hey, how do you perceive us? What do you see as our image? Do you see us as a professional service, or do you see us as something different? If you want to find out the real answer to that, you've got to ask the real people. You can't just assume, because, if you write down the word assume and you divide it up, and I don't want to offend anybody with this, but when you write down assume, A-S-S-U-M-E, and you break that up, it makes an ass out of you and me. So don't assume anything. Ask your customers what they think. Ask people that aren't your customers, hey, have you ever heard of us? Do you know anything about us? What do you think about us? That's how you can find out if you've got a professional image or not out in the marketplace. Professionalism is a million things that you're going to do. It's everything that you do on a daily basis within your company. It's how you get up in the morning. As simple as that sounds. Professionalism is a way of life. Are you waiting until 10 o'clock to get up and get started? Nothing wrong with waiting to 10 o'clock some mornings if that's what it takes. If you worked really late and you were out late and working overnight trying to get your invoicing and things out, I understand that as a small company when you wear a lot of hats. But generally, you can't sit back and be lazy. We've all got 24 hours, right? There's 24 hours in every day. How you choose to use those 24 hours is up to you, and how that's going to set that precedent for professionalism for you. Professionalism is not a sometime thing. It's an all the time thing. It's something you got to be aware of for you and your employees as your company grows on a daily basis. How they fuel up in the morning, or how you fuel up in the morning. How you get in the truck, how you get out of the truck, how you load your trailer. Is your equipment power washed? You want to talk a little bit about uniforms. Do you have a nice logoed shirt? Or have you bought a nice shirt for yourself or your employees, and they've cut the sleeves off, or they've cut them down the sides, and they've got headphones and listen to the music while they're out there trying to weed eat and mow and landscape? You got to decide, what company are you? Are you going to be the professional company, or are you going to be something different? And there's room for both. Unfortunately, there's room for both. Because what happens is there's a whole lot more unprofessional services, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not criticizing anybody. I would never criticize a competitor. I think that's something else, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But we just got to look at it and say, okay, how do we want to position our company? Do you want to position your company to be known as the company that has a lot of pride, they care about what they're doing, they're professionals in how they do it? Or do you want to be remembered as, he's just another lawn guy? Call them, they can mow it. They can put your mulch down. I don't want that perception. We got to treat our competitors with respect. Too many times I used to get mad at our competitors and our competition. Between 1979 and 1987, when we first started, I was constantly pointing my finger out at competitors saying, man, they're killing us, they're killing us, they're killing us. They're lowballing us. And all of a sudden I realized one day as I'm pointing my competitor out like this, I had three fingers right here pointing back at me saying, you know what? They might be part of the problem, but what are you doing, Wayne, with these three fingers pointing back to me to set yourself apart from them? Because you're doing everything like they are. You're pricing your jobs. You're not keeping your equipment clean. You're not wearing uniforms. Your employees look like garbage. And I'm not making fun of anybody in that. I'm just saying it all goes back to perceived value. We don't have to take and criticize our competitor all the time. We just have to take a closer look at our own companies, do a self-evaluation, and correct what we can correct. Because at the end of the day, I can't make anybody do anything about their company, same way you can't. But whose company do we control? Whose company do we control? It's the basic answer, right? We control our own. So I got to think about what I can do different and better with my own company and not worry so much what everybody else is doing. And, even if you don't like your competitor, how many times have you walked up and Miss Smith says, I've had ABC Lawn Service doing this, and don't you think this is a terrible job they're doing? It's happened to you, right? It's happened. If it hasn't, it will happen. And the longer you're in business, the more it's going to happen. How do you respond to that? Do you tell Miss Smith, you know what? Yeah, I know those guys, and every one of their jobs look like that. What have you just told Miss Smith? Now you think you're helping yourself out, right? Because you're agreeing with her. But what did you really just tell her? You really just agreed with her, and you really just told her that, you know what? They are a bunch of slime bags. They can't do any good work. But what if you change that message around a little bit? When she says or he says, and they say, isn't that a terrible job? Mr. Jones or Miss Smith, we probably would have done that a little different way. Let me tell you how we can help you. Now, we've answered the question. We didn't throw our competitor under the bus, but we set a level of expectation that we're going to be different and better than our competitor. So you don't have to always throw your competitor under the bus to get the point across, is what I'm saying. And I think I hear too much of that. And it doesn't matter if I'm in my own market in Louisville, Kentucky, or if I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, or Detroit, Michigan, or Boise, Idaho. Doesn't matter where you're talking to people. It seems we all want to throw our competitors under the bus and call them the lowballer, or they did this, or they did that, or they stole that account. That's one thing that now I get the humor in it, quite honestly. People say, well, they stole your account, so I'm going after theirs. You ever had that mindset? Man, they stole that account from me. They stole that account. Did they really steal that account? I used to think that too, and I'd point them out and say, man, they stole that account. But then I realized here's these three fingers again pointing back at me, saying, you know what, maybe they did get that account away from me. But these three fingers here are telling me now, why did your customer hire somebody else? Where did you go wrong? That's what you got to ask yourself. Where did you go wrong? Think of yourself when you buy something. You don't buy something different just because. Something caused you to make a change in what you're buying. So think about that with your business as well. What may be changed on that property? What did you start doing differently than you were doing before that all of a sudden the customer didn't like? That they started to look for somebody else. Or, when a customer fires you, how are you handling that? You mad at the customer? That's your initial reaction sometimes. And I get it. I get it loud and clear. I know sometimes, backflips aren't enough for some people. But when somebody fires you, are you asking them why they got rid of you? Do you have an exit interview process that you're using? Are you using an evaluation that you send your customers even before they fire you? If you're not, it's something to consider. We've got several different evaluation forms we send our customers as the year's going along, as well as, if somebody cancels service. We want to find out why they really stopped buying from us. And what we found is a lot of times they won't tell us on the telephone if we call them. But if we shoot them an email, or if we physically mail them something and says, hey, we're sorry to lose your business. Could you rate our services for us? Tell us where we went wrong. And we ask them, was it the mowing? Was it the trimming? Was it the blowing? Where did we not meet your expectations? And your customer is going to appreciate the fact that you care. They're going to send it back to you in most cases, put a stamped envelope in there with it, because the feedback that you're going to get from a customer that canceled is much more valuable than the letter that comes in the mail from a customer that tells you how wonderful you are. So just remember, be professional with your competitors. Don't throw them under the bus. They didn't steal your business necessarily. They didn't steal your client necessarily, because we're all out there in the same battle. If you want to separate yourself from your competition, there's a simple way of doing it. And it's not by criticizing them necessarily. It's simply training translates into professionalism. Train yourself better. Arm yourself with the knowledge that you know your customers are going to ask you about. Whether it's grass species, mowing height, how to trim a shrub, why you're doing it this way. Is this the right time of the year to fertilize? Why or why not? What type of fungus or disease issues can you be proactive with and let them know, hey, you may start seeing this in your yard. There's a million things. It goes back to what's professionalism, right? It's a million things that we can do to set that bar for our companies higher than the expectation bar is down here by a lot of other companies, because they don't want to take the time to train themselves and to educate themselves, because training, education, communication, and business knowledge, and I'll say those again, training, education, communication with your client, and business knowledge is what's going to set yourself apart from the average lawn guy. It's going to give you that confidence. And when we got confidence, we're going to be more prideful. So now we got pride, confidence, we're professionals, we're creating something called perceived value. And remember, you drive your company's image first. If you hire employees, they drive your company image, but you drive it first. You're the one that's in charge of creating the perceived value through pride and professionalism that your customers and your customers and your potential customers are looking for. And think of yourself. Me and you buy for the same reasons that our potential clients buy from us. And that's based on the perceived value. What are you doing to create perceived value for your service? That's what you got to ask yourself. It starts with pride and professionalism. And it all goes back to, what are you doing? This finger here again, remember? Instead of this, remember you got these three fingers here pointing at you. What are you doing to make your company different and better than your competitor? Start it with pride and professionalism. Key in on it. Create the perceived value. And think about people that are buyers. You're a buyer, I'm a buyer, all of our clients are buyers, right? If we create a perceived value, what are they willing to do? The more perceived value any of us think we see or having a product or service, what are we willing to do? We're willing to pay more for it. Remember, profit is not a dirty word. Help create those profit dollars by increasing your pride and professionalism that your customers see that you've created for your company. See you next time.